So you might have realized that the last video I posted was 4 or 5 months ago, and that is because I've already announced this on Twitter, but I was a little paranoid to announce it on YouTube just because, I don't know, I wanted to cover all my bases. I started working at 343 Industries, which is in itself, it was like such a euphoric and exciting and amazing thing to be able to work with 343 and on Halo. And so I cannot say enough good things about my experience so far and how happy I was to get this kind of position and how happy I am now, really. And this is just to say that 343 did not in any way block me from making content. It was just my own paranoia and wanting to feel out the culture and who I might approach to just ask, hey, like, can I do a tutorial in Unity or with this language or this framework? Because I've been working for Microsoft for 2 years before I joined 343, and Microsoft is such an interesting breed of software company because I totally get having non-compete clauses, like don't spend your free time like working on and promoting things that directly compete with Microsoft. I get that. But Microsoft makes so many different software engineering, developer, games, tools, and things that it's pretty hard. Like when you look at Azure and Office and the whole Visual Studio suite of tools, it's kind of hard to feel 100% comfortable making, programming tutorials and things if you're not 100% sure of what's considered non-compete safe. So I finally just decided to approach someone. I was also deliberately taking time off of YouTube to just kind of refresh creatively, and they basically gave me the okay that they're really, most of what I'm paranoid about is nothing to worry about, and that I'm free to do whatever I want, just as long as, obvious things. I'm not going to disclose sensitive information. I'm under NDA on a lot of things, and that I'm not going to use any kind of Microsoft-owned technology, no internal stuff. So this is just all sort of a legal statement to say that everything on here is 100% my personal work. If I have software, I bought it on my own. If I have a tool or a machine, I have bought it on my own. It's my own personal thing that I am posting on the internet. And also that I'm probably really not going to talk a whole lot about my full-time day-to-day basis. I'm open to it, but only if it's like an official collaboration. So I will not answer any questions on that just because of the obvious legal stuff I just mentioned. So no real questions about 343 or Microsoft. That's all under NDA. But otherwise, I'm happy to talk about other stuff in general, programming in general, game development in general, like how best to prepare for interviews in general. So hopefully you guys get that. And I just want to say that this has been a huge weight lifted because I was very severely paranoid, because when I was interviewing for game and entertainment studios in college looking for my first software job, I mentioned this is when I had less than 10,000 subscribers, and I mentioned that as like a detail, like, hey, I have this YouTube channel with about 10,000 followers and I do programming tutorials, thinking that the recruiter would find that interesting, like that I do a lot of programming in my free time and I have this repository and community. And instead, she just shut me down and she was like, we don't hire social media personalities or something like that, because they were worried about sensitive information. And this is a very large studio you all have heard of, but should not speculate on what it is because you won't guess it. But that really made me nervous for any future job that I really wanted to have everything be okay. And so that's also why I didn't just ask on day one, can I do my YouTube stuff, because I hadn't felt out the culture of if they would be like, oh, we don't want social media people potentially leaking things. But no, they're very awesome, very cool. So this is just my overall disclaimer around that. And then otherwise, if you're interested in upcoming Halo stuff, I'll be sure to, post on my social channels when official things come out, but likely you will not hear anything exclusively from me that you can't find out on all of the official channels. Anyway, positive thing is that I'm super, super excited to be where I'm at, and I'm super excited that now I have a big burden lifted that I can continue to work on stuff on this channel. Hard Boiled, I'm gonna say that is still in progress. I was actually looking at Godot 3.0. Congratulations to the Godot team for getting 3.0 out. So I was actually going to make a second Hard Boiled devlog months ago. I thought I would port it to C# with Godot 3.0, and we would go over the internals of the system, because I didn't really do that in the first devlog. And then that didn't work out so well because Godot and C# right now is a little bit shaky. I couldn't really get debuggers to work reliably, and part of the reason why I wanted to use C# was not because of a failure of Godot script, just because I wanted to work comfortably in Visual Studio with all my settings and stuff. And that kind of put a roadblock in things because I really wanted an excuse to refactor by porting it to C#, but I really didn't want to go back and actually sift through my messy, tech debt riddled Godot script code. And then when it came to the creative side, I still, no matter how many comments there were criticizing the visuals, I still do not want to have a visual or audio target yet when nothing's really been finalized. I'd rather focus actually on the writing and then the gameplay mechanics, and if I'm doing a good job, you would say, hey, this visually looks really stupid, but I still had a fun time playing it, or that puzzle was still interesting and it felt really satisfying when I got it. And then this is something I said I'd do like a year ago whenever I posted my last vlog, that I would give recommendations of things to consume whenever we have these kind of chit chats. So today's theme is 1950s science fiction novels, I guess, just like two of them. The first, a lot of you have probably already read, is Dune. And this was my first time reading it in the past year, and if you haven't heard of Dune, it's basically where Star Wars and a lot of really classic sci-fi drew a lot of ideas from. So number one is Dune, and then this one I'm currently reading, so hopefully we could like read it together, and then I'll post something on my second channel talking about it. It's called A Canticle for Leibowitz, and I'll be honest, I picked it up at first just because the name sounded fun. But it's basically, it was published in 1959, which is interesting because it's around the time of kind of nuclear scares, and it is about what if a nuclear apocalypse happened, and now in the US and like Utah, people don't speak English like me, that's considered an ancient language, and people speak Latin and have these kind of weird church systems, and a shopping list from our era might be considered this kind of religious artifact. It's very interesting, and like I said, I'm in progress, so I don't quite know all the mysteries, but the introduction was so interesting to me because it talked about what is literature versus fiction, and the writer of the introduction went around and asked people in the book business, like, when would you put a book on the literature shelf or the fiction shelf? And their kind of serious, kind of dumb answer was literature is when the publisher has to look up 3 or more words to understand it. Basically that, I think the quote was, literature is classier than fiction. And there is an element of that I'm enjoying, because I think I've just been so burned by science fiction and fantasy novels. Like, I love a good science fiction fantasy novel, but the key word there is good. I've run into so many that people call like best-selling novel ever, or like my personal favorite fantasy novel, like can't wait for the next ones to come out. And I read it and it's just, okay, this is so hard to explain. The author's icky, dumb voice just leaks through the prose and you're like, oh no, this story was going all right, but now I'm like aware of the person architecting this and I don't think I really like that person. I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, I hope you all are doing well. I hope you look forward to new stuff, and most importantly, have a happy day wherever you are. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.